Don't move. Don't make a sound. Silas Thorne froze as Simone's hand clamped over his mouth, pulling him behind the heavy oak panel of his mansion's service door. The scent of lemon polish and adrenaline sharp in the air. Her hand pressed firm against his lips, her dark eyes urgent, silencing him as voices carried from his private study just feet away. Before we continue, the algorithm brought you here for a reason, but it might never show you this channel again. Don't leave your growth to a random line of code. Secure your spot, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, so you never miss the unfair advantage everyone else is looking for. Now, let's get back to the story. Through the narrow gap, Silas watched his world implode. His business partner Marcus Vale rifled through desk drawers with surgical precision while his wife Elena stood watch, their conversation casual and chilling. Marcus muttered about encrypted files, and Elena responded coldly that they had 72 hours before the SEC moved in with fabricated evidence. In that instant, every inexplicable data breach, every mysterious SEC inquiry, every suspicious board vote crystallized into horrifying clarity. It wasn't corporate espionage from competitors. It was a calculated takedown by the two people he trusted most. Simone didn't wait for him to process the betrayal. She pulled him through service corridors he didn't know existed in his own home, into her modest sedan, refusing his instinct to call security. "David Chin works for them," she whispered. "Your lawyers, your board, they've bought it all. One call and you're dead or in custody by morning." She stripped Silas of anything traceable: phone, smartwatch, key fob, and drove to a neighborhood where wealth meant survival, not stocks. Hidden in Simone's immaculate apartment, Silas stared at evidence she'd been gathering for 6 months. Photographs, recordings, documents proving the conspiracy ran deeper than he imagined. And when conspirators finally tracked them to the global tech summit where he was scheduled to speak, Silas stepped onto that stage not as an untouchable billionaire, but as a man stripped of illusions, ready to expose the truth with the only person who'd been watching while he was blind. Silas sat on Simone's worn couch, his Italian suit draped like a costume from another life. Every time he closed his eyes, voices replayed. The SEC arrests him Wednesday. Marcus's satisfaction. When he's in custody, we transfer everything. Elena's cold efficiency. And the line that made his chest tighten. Silas never saw it coming. He's too arrogant to notice anyone below his tax bracket. He'd built a tech empire on innovation and reading people. But nothing prepared him for this precision of betrayal. The SEC inquiries, distant board members, security failures, all deliberate, systematic dismantling disguised as bad luck. Simone set down tea in a chipped mug, watching with quiet determination. "You need rest, Mr. Thorne. We have work tomorrow." No sympathy, only resolve born from experience. "Why risk everything for me?" Silas whispered. Her hand paused at the window blind. "I've been invisible in your world for 3 years, Mr. Thorne. And invisible people see everything." Her eyes met his. Nobody deserves to lose everything to people who smile while sharpening the knife. Outside, ordinary neighborhood sounds filtered through thin walls. Inside, Silas swallowed the humiliation that his billions had been useless. The person standing between him and total destruction was the woman he'd walked past 1,000 times without seeing. By the second day, shock sharpened into something else. And for the first time, he wasn't fighting to maintain control. He was fighting to understand how completely he'd lost it. Silas's mind couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. Marcus Vale, the man who'd been his partner for 8 years, who'd stood beside him through 3 funding rounds and countless all-nighters, was photographing documents from Silas's private safe. Elena, his wife of 6 years, wasn't crying or protesting. She was checking her watch like she had dinner reservations. "Move." Simone's whisper cut through his paralysis. Her grip on his wrist was surprisingly strong as she pulled him backward through a narrow door he'd never noticed, despite walking past it daily for 3 years. The service corridor was dim, utilitarian, smelling of cleaning supplies and concrete. Silas stumbled after Simone as she navigated turns and stairwells with practiced ease, her uniform blending into shadows while his designer suit felt like a beacon. They emerged in a service alley he didn't know his mansion had. Her sedan was older than some of his watches, the passenger seat worn but immaculately clean. The moment Silas's door closed, Simone pulled into traffic with the calm efficiency of someone who'd planned this exact escape. "I don't understand," Silas started. "Your proprietary AI technology," Simone interrupted, eyes fixed on the rearview mirror. "The adaptive learning algorithms, the predictive security protocols, they've been stealing it for 14 months. Selling it to Byte Corp, Neuraldyne, 3 other competitors I've documented." Silas felt the air leave his lungs. "That's impossible. Our security. David Chen disabled your security." Her voice was steady, factual. "He's been on Marcus's payroll since last year. Every random audit that found nothing? He made sure of it." She turned onto the highway, merging seamlessly into evening traffic. "The SEC investigation isn't random, Mr. Thorne. They planted evidence, emails from your accounts showing insider trading, offshore transfers you never authorized, falsified board minutes. Your attorneys aren't preparing your defense. They're preparing the framework to legally strip you of controlling interest the moment you're arrested." "When?" The word came out strangled. "Wednesday morning. 72 hours from now." Simone glanced at him, and for the first time, he saw not subservience in her expression but something harder, sharper. "Your entire life is a trap, Mr. Thorne. Every door you'd normally walk through leads to the same place. Federal custody, bankruptcy, your company gutted and sold for parts." She pulled into a neighborhood where streetlights flickered over cracked pavement. "And I've been watching them build it for 6 months, waiting for the right moment to pull you out." Simone's apartment was nothing like Silas expected. Small, yes, barely larger than his walk-in closet, but meticulously organized. One entire wall had been transformed into an investigation board. Photographs pinned in clusters, handwritten timelines, printed documents arranged in careful sequences. Silas stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the conspiracy mapped across her living room wall like a detective's case file. "You did all this?" he whispered, seeing her, truly seeing her, for the first time in 3 years. Simone moved past him, pulling a tablet from her desk. "I clean offices after meetings, Mr. Thorne. People talk like I'm not there. They leave documents open on conference tables because they don't think I can understand them." She swiped through photographs on the screen. Marcus meeting with men in expensive suits outside the building. Elena entering hotels where she had no business being. Documents with highlighted sections showing wire transfers, IP theft, fabricated trading records. "Audio recordings too," Simone continued, her voice measured and clinical. "I placed devices in air vents, behind picture frames, under conference tables. Spaces people forget exist because someone like me maintains them." Silas sank onto her worn couch, the weight of his blindness crushing him. "How long have you been documenting this?" 6 months of active collection. But I noticed irregularities almost a year ago." She handed him a folder. "I have a degree in computer science from City College. Graduated with honors. Couldn't break into tech without connections, without the right internships, without someone willing to look past where I came from." Her eyes met his directly. No deference, no apology. "So I cleaned offices instead. And I watched. I learned your systems, your security protocols, your blind spots." She gestured at the wall. "I see everything, Mr. Thorne. I always have. The accusation hung between them, quiet but devastating. You just never looked back. Simone pulled down a printed timeline from the wall, spreading it across her small kitchen table. Red markers indicated critical events. Black annotations tracked money movements. Blue highlighted Silas's own activities. A map of his life being weaponized against him. It started 2 years ago, she began, tapping the earliest marker. Marcus had gambling debts. Serious ones. Casino records show he was down $3 million before someone paid it off. Silas felt his stomach drop. I never knew he gambled. He hid it well. But desperate men make choices. She moved her finger along the timeline. 18 months ago, your wife began an affair with Marcus. Hotel records, restaurant receipts, matching travel schedules when you were away. The air left Silas's lungs. Elena and Marcus. His wife. His best friend. 14 months ago, the first approach from foreign buyers, specifically, Chen Technologies out of Singapore. They wanted your AI security protocols. Marcus and Elena became their inside sources. Simone laid out incident reports Silas recognized immediately. The data breach last spring that cost them 2 major contracts. The SEC inquiry that appeared from nowhere last fall. The mysterious IP leaks that forced them to redesign their entire encryption system. None of it was bad luck, Mr. Thorne. It was all Marcus, coordinated with Elena, feeding information to buyers and regulators to weaken you systematically. She opened her laptop, showing him screenshots that made his blood run cold. Emails sent from his own account. Messages he never wrote discussing insider trades, approving illegal transactions, authorizing fund transfers to offshore accounts. They cloned your digital signature 6 months ago. These accounts, she highlighted banking records, were opened in your name in the Caymans, Singapore, and Switzerland. The trading activity shows clear insider knowledge. The paper trail is perfect. Silas's hands trembled as he scrolled through the fabricated evidence. It was sophisticated, believable, damning. They're not just stealing your company, Simone said quietly. They're erasing you completely. 3 days from now, federal agents will arrest you for securities fraud and insider trading. The evidence is already in their hands. She met his eyes unflinching. And everyone will believe it. The television flickered with breaking news. Silas stared at his own photograph displayed beside the churn. Tech billionaire Silas Thorne missing amid federal investigation. Marcus appeared on screen, his expression perfectly calibrated. Concerned, confused, cooperative. We're all worried about Silas, he told the reporter. His voice steady with false sincerity. He's been under enormous stress with the SEC inquiry. I'm hoping he's just taking time to clear his head, but as his partner and friend, I'm prepared to assume temporary leadership to protect our employees and shareholders. The anchor nodded sympathetically. Your dedication during this difficult time is admirable. Silas's jaw clenched. The performance was flawless. The channel switched to another station. Elena stood outside their mansion, mascara artfully smudged, filing a missing person report with uniformed officers. I just want my husband home safely, she whispered to cameras, dabbing her eyes. Whatever he's going through, we can face it together. Turn it off, Silas growled, reaching for his phone. Simone's hand shot out, stopping him. Don't. They're watching every avenue you'd normally use. I have lawyers, contacts, board members who they've already compromised or anticipated. Her voice was firm. Your lawyers will tell you to surrender. Your contacts will urge cooperation. Your allies will counsel patience. Every move you'd normally make leads straight into their trap. She pulled up a surveillance photo on her tablet. David Chen briefing a team of private security contractors outside Thorne Tower. Your head of security has 8 teams actively searching the city. They're monitoring your credit cards, your properties, your known associates. A siren wailed outside the apartment window. They both froze. The siren grew louder, then slowly faded into the distance. Simone exhaled, but tension remained locked in her shoulders. Silas looked at her, really looked, seeing the risk she'd taken. You could have walked away, kept your head down. I considered it, she admitted quietly. But I've spent 3 years being invisible, letting powerful people hurt others because speaking up would cost me everything. Another siren closer this time. The walls suddenly felt thinner. The apartment smaller. Silas realized with crushing clarity that Simone had put herself directly in the crosshairs to protect him. And he'd never even known her last name. Night settled over the city. Trapped in stillness, Silas found himself doing something he hadn't done in 3 years. Actually talking to Simone. Not issuing instructions or polite dismissals, but genuinely listening. How did you document all of this without anyone noticing? He asked, gesturing at the evidence wall. Simone poured coffee into mismatched mugs. People don't guard their words around service workers. Marcus and Elena discussed the fraud scheme while I vacuumed your study. David Chen left his tablet unlocked while I cleaned his office. To them, I'm furniture. Functional. Forgettable. She handed him a mug, her expression matter-of-fact. They'd discuss wire transfers, falsified documents, security vulnerabilities, all within earshot of someone they assumed couldn't understand or wouldn't care. Silas stared into his coffee, shame settling like lead in his chest. I never even knew you had a degree. Simone's laugh was quiet and sad. You never asked. You barely looked at me, Mr. Thorne. 3 years of daily interaction, and you couldn't have told anyone my last name, where I'm from, or what I studied. The words landed like blows because they were true. I was polite, he protested weakly. You were absent, she corrected. There's a difference between politeness and actually seeing someone. But as they began strategizing, mapping escape routes, identifying untainted contacts, planning their counterattack, Silas witnessed something that shattered his remaining arrogance. Simone thought 3 steps ahead. She anticipated vulnerabilities he'd missed. She understood his corporate systems better than executives. He paid 6 figures to manage them. If we contact the SEC directly, Marcus's inside sources will know within hours, she explained, sketching connections on paper. But if we approach through the Inspector General's office, specifically Agent Rivera, who has no connection to the financial division, we bypass their early warning system. How do you know about Rivera? I read the organizational charts you left open in your office. I listen when you take calls. I observe. Silas set down his mug, something fundamental shifting in his understanding. The smartest person in his orbit had been invisible. Not because she lacked brilliance, but because he'd never bothered to look. Simone, he said quietly. What's your last name? She met his eyes. Baptiste. 3 years. He'd never asked. We need those encrypted files, Silas said, studying blueprints of Thorne Tower spread across Simone's table. They contain both the proprietary AI protocols and the original audit trails, proof of when the technology was developed and who accessed it. Simone traced a route through the building's service corridors with her finger. Security changes shifts at 2 a.m. That's our window. 15 minutes when the monitoring room transitions and cameras loop their feeds. You know their rotation schedule? I know everything about that building, Mr. Thorne. I've cleaned it for 3 years. At 1:47 a.m., they approached Thorne Tower through the parking garage. Simone led him past employee entrances to a maintenance door hidden behind dumpsters. Her key, legitimately issued, never revoked, granted access. Inside, the building felt different at night. Empty corridors echoed. Emergency lighting cast long shadows. Silas followed Simone through passages he'd never known existed. Narrow maintenance tunnels running behind walls, service stairs connecting floors in unexpected configurations. "The server room," he whispered. "It's on sublevel 3. I built it as insurance, completely off the official network." Simone nodded. "I know. I've cleaned it twice a month for 2 years." His shock must have shown because she added quietly, "Someone has to vacuum the server room, Mr. Thorne." They retrieved the backup drives, 6 small units containing everything: development logs, access records, communication archives, evidence that would prove the theft and exonerate Silas. Then voices echoed in the corridor above. "Thermal scan shows movement, sublevel 3, a radio crackled. David Chen's voice responded, "Converge on server room. Now." Simone grabbed Silas's arm, pulling him through a door he'd assumed was a utility closet. Instead, it opened into a ventilation shaft. They crawled through darkness, boots pounding closer behind them. "Left here," Simone breathed. "Camera blind spot. Stay low." They emerged in a loading bay. Chen's team swept past, missing them by seconds. Crouched behind delivery trucks, hearts hammering, Silas stared at this woman who'd just saved him again. "I know every exit, every camera blind spot," Simone whispered, clutching the drives. "I've been invisible long enough to map everything." In the darkness, she'd become his only light. The Global Tech Summit filled the convention center with 3,000 industry leaders, journalists, and investors. Silas Thorne had been scheduled as the opening keynote, a commitment made months ago before his world collapsed. "They expect you either arrested or absent," Simone said, studying the venue layout on her tablet. "Your appearance will throw them off balance. We use that." She'd mapped the service entrances, loading docks, and backstage corridors. Even here, in an unfamiliar building, she understood the infrastructure invisible to everyone else. They entered through a catering delivery door. Simone in her cleaning uniform walked confidently past security, Silas following in borrowed kitchen staff clothing. No one looked twice. Backstage, Silas changed into the suit Simone had secured. His hands trembled slightly as he straightened his tie. Through the curtain, he heard the crowd's murmur, saw camera crews positioning for his keynote. He stepped toward the stage entrance. "Silas." Marcus appeared from nowhere, his face a mask of relief and concern. "Thank God you're here. We've been worried sick." He gripped Silas's arm, voice dropping. "We need to talk about these serious allegations privately before you do something you'll regret." The grip was firm, controlling. "Darling." Elena rushed forward, tears already streaming. "You've been missing for days. People are worried about your mental state." She reached for him, her touch gentle but her eyes calculating. "Let's get you somewhere quiet, away from cameras." Journalists noticed the commotion. Cameras swung toward them. Flashbulbs exploded. Marcus's concern intensified. "Silas seems disoriented. We should postpone." "Mr. Thorne appears unwell," Elena added, her voice carrying to nearby reporters. "The stress of the investigation." Security moved closer, responding to Marcus's subtle signal. Silas saw the trap crystallizing perfectly. They'd escort him out claiming medical concern. Cameras would capture his instability. The arrest would follow within hours. Credibility destroyed. Marcus's hand tightened. "Come with us. For your own good." Behind them, unseen by the conspirators, Simone moved toward the stage manager's booth. Their trap was about to become his. Silas pulled free from Marcus's grip and strode onto the stage. Applause rippled through the convention center. Behind him, the massive screens glowed with the Thorne Industries logo. "Thank you for being here," he began, his voice steady. "I want to discuss our latest innovations in AI security protocols and our Q4 projections." He clicked through slides, revenue charts, product roadmaps, partnership announcements. Standard keynote material. The audience relaxed. Marcus and Elena watched from the wings, tension easing from their shoulders. Then Silas paused. "But first, I want to talk about what happens when a company's leadership becomes corrupt." The screens changed. Photographs filled the displays. Marcus meeting with men in expensive suits outside hotels. Bank transfer records showing millions moving through shell companies. Email threads detailing the systematic theft of proprietary technology. Audio played through the sound system. Marcus's voice, crystal clear. "Once we have those files, Silas will be in prison by month's end, and everything becomes ours." The audience erupted in shocked murmurs. Marcus shot to his feet in the front row. "This is fabricated. He's having a breakdown. You're watching a man unravel." More evidence appeared. Elena entering hotels where she had no business. Wire transfers to offshore accounts. Falsified trading records with Silas's forged signature. Elena rushed toward the stage. "Security, please escort my husband. He's not well, he needs help." Simone stepped into the spotlight, approaching the microphone beside Silas. The house lights caught her face clearly for every camera in the room. "My name is Simone Baptiste," she said, her voice calm and unwavering. "I've worked at Thorne Industries for 3 years as a housekeeper. And I've documented everything you're seeing." She held up a folder thick with papers, a stack of backup drives. These contained 6 months of surveillance. Photographs, recordings, financial documents, testimony from other staff members who witnessed suspicious activities but were too afraid to speak. Elena's composure shattered. "You're just a housekeeper. No one will believe some." She caught herself, but too late. Every camera captured it. Every microphone recorded it. Her contempt. Her panic. Her guilt. The mask had cracked completely. Federal agents entered through the main doors, real ones, contacted through Inspector General Rivera, the channel Simone had identified as untainted. "Marcus Vale, Elena Thorne, you're under arrest for corporate espionage, securities fraud, and conspiracy." The lead agent's voice carried across the stunned silence. "David Chen and board members Richardson, Patel, and Morrison, you're also in custody." Marcus lunged toward the exit. 2 agents blocked him. Elena's face went white. "This is a mistake. We have lawyers." "So do we. And evidence." The agent held up the drive Simone had secured. Flashbulbs exploded. Journalists shouted questions. The conspiracy collapsed under the weight of public scrutiny. Broadcast live across every major network. Silas stood on stage, watching his former partner and wife led away in handcuffs. He felt no triumph, only the hollow ache of betrayal and his own blindness. 5 days later, Silas stood before Thorne Industries employees and assembled media in the company auditorium. Simone waited in the wings, uncomfortable with visibility after 3 years of invisibility. "I won't spin this as a victory," Silas began, his voice quiet but clear. "I built a company with critical failures, where intelligence and integrity were invisible if they didn't match my assumptions about who deserved attention." He paused, letting the truth settle. "I valued credentials over character, titles over competence. I created a culture where the smartest person in the building was invisible because I never bothered to look." He gestured toward the wings. "Simone, please join me." She walked out slowly, visibly uncertain. This woman demonstrated strategic thinking, courage, and competence that exceeded most of my executive team, Silas continued. I'm offering her the position of Chief Operating Officer, not as a reward for saving me, but because she's earned it through ability I was too arrogant to recognize. Simone stood beside him, overwhelmed. I'm not sure I belong in that world. Silas turned to face her directly. Neither am I anymore. But we'll build a better one together. Weeks later, Silas sat in a smaller office with transparent walls, literal and metaphorical openness replacing closed doors. Simone implemented accountability measures across every department. Anonymous reporting systems, cross-level observation protocols, promoted from within initiatives. Silas watched her work, finally understanding what he'd been too arrogant to see. Competence had no uniform. Intelligence had no credentials. The strongest companies were built by people who actually saw each other. Power makes you blind to everything outside your circle of attention. The people you dismiss as invisible often see the truth most clearly. Not because they're smarter, but because they're watching while you assume no one's paying attention. Real leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about building a room where everyone's intelligence matters. Trust isn't proven by credentials or contracts. It's proven by character when everything's at stake. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comment where you are watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another beautiful story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want you to miss it for anything.